Let's return to This Week in America. Here's your host, Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody. Coast to Coast, This Week in America. The historical fiction Klara Kharkov Life by Michael Blekhman and Olga Bezhanova is based on events that took place in the 1920s through 1940s in Ukraine, the Soviet Union, as well as the 19th century Jewish village in Belorussia, the Russian Empire. The main characters are a young Jewish couple. As somebody who was born in the Soviet Union and lived there until its collapse, Michael and Olga employed their knowledge of the Soviet realities in this novel. Michael was born in Kharkov, Ukraine. Since 1998, lived in Montreal, Canada, a professional linguist, a PhD in linguistics, and writer and member of the International Academy of Literature and Arts. A winner of numerous Ukrainian literary awards, the author of several books in Ukrainian, Russian, and English. Michael's stories and books have been published in various literary magazines all over the world. Olga is a professional literary critic and scholar, born in Kharkov, Ukraine, where she graduated from Kharkov State University, Department of Foreign Languages. After relocating to Montreal, Canada, she graduated from McGill University, then obtained her PhD degree at Yale. She teaches Hispanic literature at the University of South Illinois in Edwardsville, Illinois. She writes in English, Spanish, and Russian. Olga is a member of the International Academy of Literary Arts, a winner of several Ukrainian literary awards. And Olga Bezhanova, co-author with Father Michael Blekhman of Klara Kharkov Life, joins us on This Week in America.
Thank you so much, Rick. It's an honor to be here.
You have done such a wonderful job with your father on this book. It tells a remarkable story, gives us a glimpse of something we've been reading, of course, a lot about in the news. The two authors on the book, you and your father, both listed, of course, on the cover as authors. How did both of you contribute to the writing? How does that work when you're separated, I'm assuming, as you're writing most of the book? How did you coordinate all of this?
So my father is the author of the book. He wrote it in Russian. As a writer, he always wrote either in Russian or in Ukrainian. And so I decided to give him a birthday gift and translate the novel into English. And so I had to do it in secret because it was supposed to be a birthday surprise. You know, you're translating a whole novel.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of time. And also as a translator, especially of a literary text, you always want to ask questions of the author because some things you don't understand, some things you want clarification on. And so I had to ask him questions, pretending that I was just curious about the novel, but actually I was doing the translation. And then I presented it to him at his birthday celebration, and he was very touched and stunned that I could do such a huge amount of work without ever mentioning it to him and, betraying the secret. And so when it existed in English, we decided to make it public and share it with readers who can read in English, because I think that it's a great story to tell, and it's something that people can really enjoy reading.
It really is. What started off as a birthday gift for your father, and that's overwhelming. I'm thinking about that as you're talking about what it would go through to translate a novel. Easier probably to buy a necktie, but this had a lot more meaning to it than buying another gift like that. But it's a gift for everybody because this is such a charming story. The book is so well written and translated. The book is Klara Kharkov Life, and that's Klara. Kharkov Life. And the guest on the program is Olga Bezhanova, and I'll give you all the information where the book's available as we go through the program today. Of course, today Ukraine is mentioned on the news a lot, virtually every newscast. How does your novel help us understand what Ukrainians are like? As you're reading it, you sort of get a glimpse of what life is like there, what it was and what it is.
I think that today, for many people, it came as a surprise to see the bravery, the courage, and the resilience of Ukrainians in the war against a massively powerful enemy. And this is because nobody has really known about our existence much internationally. And honestly, at the cost of having a horrible war, I would have preferred that nobody knew about Ukraine's existence.
Exactly.
But now that we're seeing what is going on, in this novel that was written before the war started, we can see the history of Ukrainian resilience. We can see how people face very, very difficult historical circumstances and conditions, and they rise to the challenge with a sense of humor, with strength, with courage. And I think that this is the most important message of the book, that anybody from any part of the world, and especially people in the United States, can really identify with, which is that you should always have the dignity and the courage, no matter what kind of things life throws at you.
And that really looked like, to an outsider, overwhelming odds. You've got the mighty Soviet Union army, a Russian army, of course, now, and you've got them poised, and you're thinking this is just a matter of maybe days before this is over, and the slaughter, and you feel so badly for what's going on, and you continue to feel badly, but you see the resilience of the people there, fighting back, in some cases taking back territory that they had lost. It's just a remarkable story, what's happening now, and what's happening during the period of the book, Klara, Kharkov Life. Let's talk about the novel specifically. It's set in the 1920s and 40s in the USSR. What do you as an author, and you and your dad, hope that we learn about this special time in history?
I think it's very important that the memory of the USSR does not fade. It was a horrible, horrible, as President Reagan said once, evil empire, and that's exactly what it was. It was a brutal totalitarian regime that created enormous tragedy, enormous destruction. And often today, you even start hearing people trying to justify the USSR in some ways. But that is an enormous, enormous mistake, because we're bound to repeat the mistakes of history if we do not learn from them, right? So we need to remember that this was a totalitarian regime and people tried to survive in it as best they could, but there was absolutely nothing good about it. It was horrible, and I would just really want to reiterate that and remember that there is nothing more precious than freedom, democracy, rights, all of the things that do not exist in totalitarian regimes.
Well, and you address those in the book. You talk a lot about the tragic events in history, the Stalinism, totalitarianism in the USSR, World War II. The tone of the novel, somber and tragic, or did your dad really try to personalize it as well?
That's a very important question. When my father was writing the novel, he decided not to create a description of the horrors and the tragedies and the sufferings of the Soviet Union, because those books have been written and they are very important. But he also wanted to show the aspect of how people were surviving in the totalitarian regime and continuing with their daily lives. People were continuing to fall in love and form families and enjoy nature and enjoy the company of each other. So the novel is actually very humorous. There's a lot of laughter, a lot of jokes, and those were very difficult to translate. Let me tell you that. Translating humor is always complicated. But the tone of the novel is actually very light and humorous. And that, I think, is very powerful because it creates a huge contrast to what people want in life. You know, they want family, friendship, love, joy, poetry, and this tragic reality happening that is trying to crush all of the good that exists in life.
Yeah, the book does such a nice job of giving us a glimpse at what is going on there, what has gone on there, what the people have been through, and humanizing it at the same time. It's a remarkable story of a Jewish couple, and we'll talk about that specifically in a second. But the book is Klara Kharkov Life. That's Klara Kharov, Life. Olga Bezhanova is our guest on the program. She wrote the book along with her father, Michael Blekhman. Their website is Blekhman, that's Blekhman. Bezhanova is Bezhanova.com. That's a lot. We've got it on our website. You can go there and link on, and I'll give that to you at the conclusion of the conversation. Book available, of course, Amazon, the usual places, infusedmedia.co, which is the publisher. Olga, what does it feel like to be a writer from Ukraine who's now living in the United States? What are the emotions like?
The tragedy of the war is bringing out the best in the people of Ukraine, and the world is seeing, as we talked at the beginning of the interview, what Ukrainians are capable of. But I think that it's also bringing out the best in Americans, because the support and the kindness and the curiosity and the warmth that we're seeing from the American people has been absolutely overwhelming. And this is a great country, and this is a country of people who do not remain indifferent. This is the country of people who want to know about other places in the world and want to help. Of course, it's very difficult to be away from Ukraine, but at the same time, I feel like there is a lot that one can do. There is a lot that one can do by talking to people, answering questions. People have a lot of questions about what's going on in Ukraine. I've had a lot of speaking engagements where people have a lot of questions to ask, and I'm happy to answer them. And so also now with the release of the book, I feel like this is something that we can contribute to engaging people and enjoying Ukrainian art and finding out about Ukrainian history. And it's really great to be in the United States surrounded by people who want to know and who are so welcoming and kind and supportive, and that means a lot.
Are you surprised when you're talking with people and they're all of a sudden we're exposed to the architecture, the culture, the arts in the Ukraine, and also the military? This is a very strong and proud military. Do you find people have been surprised at that? I mean, we're sort of looking at it as here's a country that split off from the Soviet Union, and now we're seeing this country has a lot to offer, doesn't it?
Absolutely, that's true. I think that Ukraine has not done a great job up to now about getting out the news about all of the important changes that have taken place in the country throughout the past 8 years or the past 20 years. There have been a lot of changes. For example, I go to the local store to buy a coffee maker, and it's like a really fancy coffee maker, and I see that it's made in Ukraine. So we have reindustrialized, we have created industries in Ukraine. A lot of things have been manufactured, a lot of culture is being produced. And now is a good time to start getting that out. And yeah, definitely I'm seeing people in the United States surprised. Like, oh, wow, this all happened. It's a 40 million people country right there in Europe that has a lot going for it. And I think that we in Ukraine should definitely do a better job getting the knowledge about ourselves out there. And your show is helping to do that in a big way. And I'm very, very grateful for that.
Well, I'm grateful that you are spending the time to talk about the book. It gives us remarkable insight into the people of Ukraine. The book is Klara Kharkov Life. I'll give you all that information as we go through the program. The link on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. One more question just on the people, and we'll get back and talk about the book. Were you surprised when the president in the Ukraine rose to the occasion as he did? So many people were thinking, here's an entertainer. Now his country is really, it's going to be invaded. How is this going to be handled? And all of a sudden, people are like really impressed. I mean, he's just stayed there and led this country through. Were you concerned about that in the beginning? Were you surprised? Or did you know that deep down, I think this guy can come through?
I'll tell you honestly, I was not a great supporter of President Zelensky from the beginning of his term as president. My father was a great supporter, and we actually had a lot of debates about that. And my fear was precisely what you're saying, that if or when there is another invasion from Russia, because there's always another invasion from Russia, is he going to rise to the occasion? Is he going to have the strength of character precisely for the reasons that you're saying? And I have to say that I had to call my father on the phone and tell him, look, you were right, as fathers usually tend to be. But you were completely right. I was wrong. I have to accept that this guy is amazing. You saw something in him that I failed to see. But I guess, the life experience of the older generation really should guide us. My father was right. And I am very proud and happy to see the Ukrainian leadership, not just President Zelensky, but his entire cabinet, just really great people, enthusiastic, knowledgeable. They speak languages, they speak English, they understand the world history. And there's really something to be proud of there.
It was interesting in the beginning when he gets a call from, I guess, the U.S. State Department, we'll send a plane to get you out of there. And he said, I don't want an airplane, I want guns. And I think right away you knew, okay, this is for real. He's reflecting the mood of the people, and they're going to fight, and they've done it so courageously. What do Americans and Ukrainians have in common, and how is that reflected in the novel? Because deep down, we're all people, aren't we?
Exactly. And also, I think it's important to know that there is an enormous admiration for the United States and Ukraine. There's an enormous admiration for the United States Constitution, for the American democracy, for the values of freedom, especially freedom of speech. Ukrainians right now are fanatically dedicated to freedom of speech and freedom of association, freedom of thought, freedom of worship, such important things. And if you read the novel, I think that you can also see that there is this very, very important culture of resilience and dedication to family that exists in Ukraine historically. And I think that this is also something that is central to the culture of the United States. So there is a lot that we can see that is so similar in these cultures of, standing up for your homeland, loving your country, loving your family, and staying strong and smiling even through the most difficult circumstances in life. This is a typical American, right? I'm going to stand strong, stand my ground, and see everything with a sense of humor and with this, yes, I can. And we can see that in the novel as well, that this is something that historically exists in Ukraine, has existed, and exists today.
Such similarities, and they all come across in the book, Klara Kharkov Life. Tell me about the title, the significance of the title, and how you and your father came up with that.
So Klara is the name of the main character of the novel, a young woman who is growing up in the Soviet Union and is trying to figure out her life in this difficult situation. And the character is based completely on my grandmother. And it's also the name of my daughter, whom I named after her great-grandmother. And Kharkov is the place where she lived, the city in Ukraine. And this was the city that was massively attacked by Russia in this war. But Kharkov has started to rebuild. Over 600,000 people who had left Kharkov at the beginning of the war already returned, and they're planting flowers. They're trying to rebuild their city today, and so I'm really happy that there's a novel that has the name of this great city in the title. And life, the third word in the title, indicates that this novel is ultimately about the meaning of life and what really matters. And historical circumstances and totalitarian regimes, they come and go, but what remains is the core of yourself as a human being and who you are and what you really value in life.
Who should read this book? You've got so many elements there. You've got a great story. You've got a taste of history that helps us put Ukraine in perspective. Who should read the novel?
I would recommend this for all groups of readers. I think that teenagers and young adults would really like it and if you want something for your child to read that doesn't have any, like profanity or sex scenes or anything like that, and it's just good, wholesome reading, but also very educational about history, about other countries, I would highly recommend this. And as a parent, you do not have to worry that your child is going to read something they shouldn't. And I would also recommend it to people who are interested in Ukraine right now and want to know not about Ukraine today, but about more of the historical background. I would recommend it to people who want to have a good laugh, because there's a lot of endearing, humorous kind of stuff in it, and people who enjoy historical fiction about the history of the 20th century around the world. So all of these groups of people, I think, would definitely enjoy the reading.
What do you hope the takeaway is when people finish the book? What do you hope our memories are? What do you hope we remember from the story?
I think that it is very important to consider the danger of totalitarian regimes. Totalitarianism in many ways is seductive, especially in its softer form, where there is no like open death squads or concentration camps, what is called a soft totalitarianism. It is seductive because it gives people an opportunity to live their lives without any sense of responsibility. So you have, the big brother, the government, responsible for everything completely, and you just float along. And all you need to do is relinquish your right to have opinions, to have your own thoughts, to have your own beliefs. And sometimes, often for people, this seems like a good trade-off. Like, well, I have everything decided for me. I don't have to make any decisions. That's good. That's easy. So who cares about the freedom of speech? Who cares about the freedom of worship? But those are crucial freedoms. They're very, very important. They constitute the meaning of what it is to be human, and we should never, ever relinquish them. We should always remember that human freedom is crucial, and there is really no sense of being yourself, being who you are, without being free.
It's interesting because as you read, we've over the last several months got this newfound sense of Ukrainian people, what they've gone through, and respect for the country and the people there. And we see the background where this all came from in the book, Klara, Kharkov, Life by Michael Blekhman and Olga Bezhanova. Olga's our guest on the program. You mentioned the title based on a grandmother. Are there other family members that are reflected in the book and experiences? And what was that like writing about maybe family members, other family members, and those experiences?
Yes, absolutely. This is all based on real life events and the stories that we heard from my grandparents about how they met, how they fell in love, my great-grandparents, how they lived in the Soviet Union. This is all based completely on real-life events. I heard those stories so many times from the people who participated in them. And then my father basically just collected them into a coherent narrative of this novel. But people who read the book should rest assured that all of this happened. And of course, when you write about something, you want to highlight the more humorous elements. You want to bring some sort of a unifying thread to the story. So of course, when you write, you remake things, but the underlying events that are there are all completely true. And right now, for example, when you look at how people who are in the war in Ukraine right now, who are under the bombs and the bomb shelters, how they talk about their reality, you will see the same sense of humor, the same sense of, nobody sitting there weeping and bemoaning their existence. People feel anger at what is being done to them, but they also feel a sense of pride, and they approach events with such courage and such resilience that every time I read what they have to say, I even feel a little bit of a shame of saying, how often do we feel upset and, devastated about trivial and important things when we should cultivate more of the stoicism and the sense of facing life with dignity and pride rather than just, falling apart over everything.
Yes.
And so when I read this novel, I felt the same thing. I should be as resilient as my ancestors because that will make them proud.
I saw a picture several days ago, and I'm not sure of the town, but the people were going back. They were trying to restore things, and this family had the remnants of a Russian tank in their front yard. They're moving it out. They're putting, the cables back up so they have telephone, internet, that type of thing, and going about life, sweeping up from the bombing and going forward. And it's like, it's just an amazing resilience the people have. Olga, I got a minute or so left in the program. What's this been like, being able to work with your dad, do this book, surprise him? And I'm sure that initial reaction was priceless when he realized his book has now been translated into English. What has this meant for you to be able to give your father this gift and now give it to the entire world?
That was really amazing. As you said at the beginning, it's hard to give gifts to men because men always say, dads especially, I have everything.
Yes.
I don't need anything. Don't bother. I got everything I need. It's just, for a woman, it's always easier. For my mom, so easy to buy gifts. But for a dad, it was hard. And I thought that, well, this would be a good gift because it's a labor of love. It's a lot of work to translate it and, put it in my own words, especially struggling with the sense of humor, translating a lot of play on words. That's hard to translate. And but at the same time, it was also a wonderful experience for me because I felt that I was getting in touch with the past of my own family, with the roots of my family. And also it helped me develop as a translator, as a scholar of literature. And now being able to talk to you and to your listeners and to other people about this book and about our experience, it really makes me feel that I'm part of something bigger. I think feeling the connection to your ancestors, to your family history, to the history of your country, to the history of your culture, it's extremely important. It grounds people into something that is so valuable and that is going to continue existing long after we pass on, and then our children and grandchildren are going to continue that thread.
Well, what a legacy. You've done a remarkable job. The book is Klara Kharkov Life. That's Klara. Kharkov is Kharkov, Life, of course. The book by Michael Blekhman, Blekhman, and our guest on the program, Olga Bezhanova, that's Bezhanova. We've got all these links on our website. Their website is blekhmanbezhanova.com. Book available Amazon, wherever books are sold, published by infusedmedia.co, their website there as well. Olga, it's been a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you so much for sharing this this remarkable book, a timely book, because we've got this newfound, like I said, respect and admiration for Ukrainians. And now we find this is not something you found over the last couple of months. It's who the Ukrainians are. Thank you so much for joining us on the program and sharing this remarkable story.
Thank you so much, Rick. It's been a great pleasure.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and share the word. The book available, of course, wherever books are sold. Information on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. We're back on today's program after these messages.
This Week in America is online. You can visit our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Scott Pinkerton, associate producer of This Week in America. Jay Anderson, segment producer. Ben Watson, webmaster. Otto Bechet, director of engineering and TV production. This Week in America produced and is a trademark of Blue Funk Broadcasting, LLC. For information on all of our guests and to listen to this week's show, our website again at thisweekinamerica.us. And I'm Sean Bratton, executive producer of This Week in America.